Welcome to the Harvey Hour Fired Up. My name is Nathan Harvey. I am your host for today's episode of the Harvey Hour Fired Up. We got a great show planned today. I understand right now, before I jump into anything, that the stream may be lagging, dealing with internet issues. So if you can't see this, don't worry. Clips will be uploaded throughout the week. Anyway, we got a big show planned for you today. So let's get into our first topic of today's show. Let's jump right into it. We're talking about some recent reports that came out. So, supposedly, according to, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, it looks like Sam Darnold is pushing to be the Week 1 starter if Brock Purdy can't go. Now he would need to jump over Trey Lance, and that seems likely because he's making a push to actually be that Week 1 starter if Brock Purdy can't go. Now, there were some positive reports from Kyle Shanahan today that basically says that we're planning on Brock Purdy being available in September. That is a pretty likely outcome, I would say. And I thought about this a while ago. Last time I talked about Trey Lance, someone in my comment section said, "What are you talking about? We don't even know if Brock Purdy will get ready, or if he won't even be healthy by then." And I sort of knew anyway that there's a more than likely chance, just based on the way that it heals, that Brock Purdy very well may be likely for Week 1. Now, the report is, there's a report out saying that he will be ready to throw next week, which is a good sign. And if he's ready to throw in where we're at, May, so the very beginning of June, end of May, if he starts throwing, he could be healthy for training camp, could be ready for September and opening week. If he's not, it'll be left up to either Trey Lance or Sam Darnold. They picked up Sam Darnold from the Panthers after he had a decent season. I'm not going to say a good season, but definitely better than he's had over his career, especially because I think everyone knew that he was probably a bust on the Jets. He came over to Carolina, didn't have the greatest of starts, but he was okay, not great, not really even that good, but he put the Panthers in sort of playoff contention, and they ended up losing it because they lost to the Bucs, I believe, in Week 17. So, what's the likely outcome? That Trey Lance gets jumped by Sam Darnold. Truthfully, based on what I'm seeing, Kyle Shanahan really likes Sam Darnold. And that's actually contradictory to what we thought he may like Trey Lance. Originally, it was thought, does the GM like Trey Lance? Because I believe Kyle Shanahan and the GM were both a conflict between Mac Jones and Trey Lance. And Sam Darnold apparently is ready to have a resurgent year. That's what all the rumors are. This could be his best season of his career. And they supposedly, according to this report, teams believe that Darnold's, quote, major talent has gone largely untapped, and Shanahan could, quote, bring something out of him. This is very different than what we've been hearing about Sam Darnold over the course of his career, how he was basically a bust. We saw him with New York. I saw it up close and personal when he was versing the Patriots. He had a horrible game. I believe he said he was seeing ghosts after one of the games. So I believe he threw 4 interceptions in that game as well. And what's funny is the former offensive coordinator of the 49ers, Mike Martz, thinks that Sam Darnold will start opening weekend. Obviously, if Brock Purdy can't go. Because it seems like the 49ers are more than content going with Brock Purdy, even though he was Mr. Irrelevant last year. He won, 8, 9 games, including the playoffs when he was starting, when he was healthy? So with Kyle Shanahan being a big fan of Sam Darnold, with teams thinking that this could be Sam Darnold's best year of his career, and with a lot of reports that the 49ers are very discontent with the way Trey Lance has developed. He was the rawest quarterback coming out of that draft, and Kyle Shanahan is arguably one of the best offensive coordinators and offensive coaches in the league, and he's not developing properly. I saw something today. His mechanics look a little bit better. However, they have, a large part, Trey Lance has been a big disappointment for the 49ers. And then I completely understand that. With the amount of talent the 49ers have had over the past 5 years, I mean, Jimmy G, they set up Trey Lance for the 49ers to be Trey Lance's team. Jimmy G said goodbye in January, and it's supposed to be Trey Lance's team, and lo and behold, they re-signed Jimmy G on a reconstructed 1-year deal. They didn't trust Trey Lance. There was something there. They just could not trust Trey Lance to take hold of this team and move it forward. And they also drafted Brock Purdy. Well, unfortunately, Trey Lance got hurt. Jimmy G came in. The crowd went crazy. And he started up that 10-game winning streak the 49ers ended with. Now, they lost because Brock Purdy got hurt. He hurt his UCL. But Jimmy G started that long win streak, and then Brock Purdy took over and completed it. Brock Purdy, as a primarily pocket passer, who maybe athletically is not as, great as Trey Lance, he took hold of this team and performed excellently. Now, Trey Lance didn't have CMC, but he did have Kittle at times. He did have Deebo Samuel. He did have Brandon Ayuk. He had that phenomenal offensive line. Elijah Mitchell, we forget because CMC is there. He was a great running back for the 49ers. He had him on the team. And he went 500. And one of the starts, he didn't even finish. So really, he went 1-2 and looked terrible. Slightly above 50% completion percentage. I think it's fair to say that Trey Lance has not been great. Now, if reports are coming out saying that Kyle Shanahan likes Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold now is rumored to be pushing for the week 1 start, like I've been saying for months now. I've done maybe 3 or 4 topics on this show, on my channel. You got to get off of him. Because what are you doing to that kid's psyche is terrible. I could understand it from a football business perspective. You want to put the best guy to succeed because all your guys are getting old. You guys are aging. Is George Kittle going to stay healthy? Is George Kittle going to stay great? We don't know. But everyone is aging, and this has been a win-now team for the past 4 years. Now, Jimmy G got them to an NFC Championship game. Jimmy G got them to a Super Bowl. Now, Brock Purdy got them to an NFC Championship game. And Trey Lance can barely win a game. And now you have Sam Darnold rumored to have the best season of his career, maybe, if he does start. And to potentially have the starting job if Brock Purdy can't go over Trey Lance, who was supposed to be their number 1 piece. They traded a bunch to get Trey Lance. A bunch of stuff to draft Trey Lance. And they don't use him because they can't use him because he gets hurt and is not that good, and Brock Purdy and Jimmy G are better options. Now you bring in Sam Darnold, and lo and behold, he may start over Trey Lance. So if Brock Purdy can't go, if Brock Purdy could go, then this entire subject is just gone because it doesn't make any sense. Now, on the depth chart, it might be interesting to see if Sam Darnold actually gets that number 2 spot, because right now on their depth chart, they have 4 quarterbacks. I think the last one will obviously go to the practice squad or get released, but I believe they will retain Trey Lance, or they should trade him, but they will retain him at least. He'll be on the roster at some point, and they'll also keep Sam Darnold, because they dealt with QB injuries last year, and lo and behold, it's not looking too great. So, personally me, get rid of Trey Lance. You keep Sam Darnold. You move on with Brock Purdy as your quarterback because Trey Lance ain't your guy. Try to get as much as you can from Trey Lance. Get at least trade value-wise because you're not really getting much on the field-wise. We may see. I could be completely wrong, and I will fully accept that. If Trey Lance comes out here, let's say Brock Purdy's out for the first 2 weeks. I believe I have the schedule up as well. This is their schedule against the Steelers and the Rams. People don't trust the Rams. The Steelers, we don't know what they could be. I think the Steelers could be perfectly fine. We'll see with Kenny Pickett. I didn't have much faith in him entering the season last year. He started off terrible with 3 interceptions. But the Steelers should be better this year. So we have the Steelers, the Rams, the Giants, and the Cardinals. Right there with Sam Darnold, you could probably win 2 to 3 games. Now, of course, your defense may be a big factor in that, especially with maybe the Giants and the Rams, but you could definitely go 3-1 with Sam Darnold. Trey Lance, I don't know if you can get it done. You may go 2-2, the very best, but I don't think you're going 3-1, and you're for sure not going 4-0 with Trey Lance. Sam Darnold has a chance to go 4-0. I think you'll probably beat you'll beat Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think you'll definitely beat the Cardinals. The Giants are an interesting team. You should beat them though, regardless of your quarterback, but who knows? And the Rams, people don't have faith in for whatever reason. I think you forgot what happened 2 years ago when they had the best offense in the league with Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford absolutely balling. But instead, no, we focus on last year when nobody was healthy. 0 people were healthy on that Rams team, so obviously they would be terrible. I believe their win total is, 8.5? Do I have it in front of me here? I do not, but I believe it's 8.5. Their over-under win total, which is ridiculous. I think I picked the over. I said 9 wins, I believe. So, I know I said 4 weeks, but I'm just doing, at least 2 weeks. I think Sam Darnold could go 2-0. I think Trey Lance may go 1-1. If Brock Purdy's out for the first 2 weeks. So we will see. I think it's interesting that Sam Darnold now may be the starter if Brock Purdy can't go. And the next move of Trey Lance would be, you're going to kill this kid's psyche because guess what? Jimmy G took the job from him and the crowd went crazy. Brock Purdy took the job from him, the crowd went crazy. Now he was hurt, I understand that, but still, Brock Purdy moving forward will be the QB1. So Sam Darnold may take your job. Brock Purdy took your job right now, and Jimmy G at the time took your job as well. You had, 3 or 4 opportunities to succeed, and the 4th opportunity you got hurt. So I won't give you that. You had 3 fine opportunities to prove that you may be the guy, or at least show some sort of value that you could be the guy. I mean, Justin Fields got beat to shreds this year. He had no offensive line. He showed he could play if he actually has some support. The 49ers have all the support in the world, and Trey Lance didn't show he could play. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the 49ers do moving forward. I say get off Trey Lance, keep Sam Darnold, start him if you need him if Brock Purdy's out, or keep him as your backup. Brock Purdy's the QB1 moving forward, but that is my take on that. Let's get into our next topic here. The Celtics have won a game, a singular game after being down 3-0. And honestly, there was only one thing that really changed. Maybe 2 things. 2 things. And I don't think it's the lineup. The lineup, Mazzulla has this ideology that, the 3 ball. He believes in the 3 ball, as you showed. They shot 45 threes, which is a little bit much for a team that hasn't been shooting the ball very well from 3 in this entire playoff run. They shot 40% last night. This team frustrates me because I picked the Celtics to, I believe, win in 6. They now need to make history if they want to move to the NBA Finals. I personally don't believe that's going to happen. What I think is going to happen is tomorrow, when you'll see this clip, I fully predict the Celtics get gentlemen swept. Because what I think happened was they put all this effort in to not get swept, to at least have some pride. And what happened was Grant Williams actually had a great game. 14 points off the bench. All of his points came from threes and 2 free throws as well. Shot 4 of 6 from 3. I hate this because I don't think people understand. But when Grant Williams was in, yes, he did poke the bear of Jimmy Butler. I fully understand that, and that was a terrible idea. But it's not like he was getting cooked. He wasn't getting dropped. He wasn't getting juked. It was nothing like that. It was simply that Jimmy Butler's just a better player. Jimmy Butler shot over him a bunch of times. Grant Williams actually played great defense. It's not like he was wide open and Jimmy Butler made one move, got right by him, and then was able to dunk on him or whatever. Grant Williams in game 3 got right up in his face. So he actually played pretty good defense. Jimmy Butler's just obviously 15 times the player that Grant Williams ever dreams of being. However, in this game, Grant Williams showed up, and Jimmy Butler had a great game as well. He had 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. Jimmy Butler did. Shot 4 of 10. However, in totality, he didn't shoot very well, 9 of 21. And the Celtics actually played like the number 2 seed in this game. They played great defense. They forced 15 turnovers, which led to 27 points. That's one of the changes there. They played great defense, and they actually converted on their turnovers. Another thing that happened was they did get out-rebounded, but their second chance points, they were 100% in second chance points, 5 of 5, which is huge. Because in game 4, they out-rebounded, do I have the number here? I believe I have the number here. They out-rebounded the Heat, I believe the number is 22 rebounds. They had 20 more offensive rebounds than the Heat did in game 3. The only problem was they couldn't convert on their second chance points. They would get the offensive rebound, but then brick the shot after the board. In this game, they weren't doing that. They were actually converting on second chance points. They were converting on turnovers, and that's a huge thing. And guess what? It wasn't Mazzulla's fault, and Mazzulla should get credit for this because he actually willed his team to play, and his team showed up. I've had some problems with Mazzulla, but in large part, I've defended him. Because he trusts his players. Now, he may be a little over his head because he's a first-time head coach, and his ideology doesn't really fit with what the Celtics team needs. This Celtics team was the best when Ime Udoka grilled them on defense. You got to put in 110% on both sides of the court, both ends of the court. And that's the team we saw last year. Now, Jason Tatum played sloppy and once again had his ups and downs as we've seen in the series and in this entire playoffs, and large part throughout his career. That's why I don't put him as a superstar. But in large part, he had also had 100 turnovers. I will add that as well. But this team was much more dominant. And again, probably for the second year in a row, the Celtics have been the best team, the deepest team in the NBA. The Heat down the line are not the better team. They don't have the better players. They don't have the better role players. They just wanted it more throughout the playoffs. It's shown on the defensive end. They play a great zone. That forces a lot of turnovers and great transition offense. The Heat throughout this entire playoff series have just wanted it more. And last night, the Celtics finally showed that they're the number 2 seed. They wanted it last night. Now, will they be gassed tomorrow? Absolutely. Absolutely. I guarantee you the Celtics are not going to have the same performance because they're in the playoffs, they are not better at home. I think they're about 500 or slightly under 500 at home, which is actually what you should, it's the opposite of what you want. Generally, you want to be great at home. Like one of the Warriors' horrible pet peeves this season was they couldn't win on the road, but they were great at home. So you could always ensure that the Warriors, no matter how, like they were down 2-0 to the Kings, they came back and won that series, large part because they stole a road game. They stole 2 road games, actually. And you know what? They were able to get it done at home, day in and day out. The Celtics team showed their will here. They played great. They played as a unit. They played much better. And it's not this lineup. This lineup has gotten them killed over the playoffs so far. And like, I don't understand why Missoula resorted back to this lineup. Scoring early in the game wasn't their problem. Hell, I believe if I had the number in front of me, I think it's upstairs for me. They've actually averaged fewer points in quarters 1 to 3 with this lineup than they have in quarter 4. Quarter 4 was the main problem, at least scoring-wise. Defensively, they got killed in one of the third quarters. In this game, actually, they dominated in the third quarter, outscoring the Heat by 15. But like that's one of the problems I have. This is something I didn't understand in the Game 3 move to go back to this smaller lineup that focuses more on three-point shooting. You take out Robert Williams, you put in Derek White for three-point shooting. I didn't understand it. Because your problem wasn't shooting early on. Hell, you've actually been scoring more points early in the game with the bigger lineup than you did with your three-point shooting elite lineup. So to me, that made no sense. And honestly, it seems like the change is negligible in this game. Actually, throughout the series. Because it doesn't matter. The Heat have just wanted it more in every single game. And I guarantee you, Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown each said before Game 4, don't let us win a game. They won Game 4. Now Jimmy Butler and the Heat are going to be reinvigorated. They're going to have much more courage and pride to go into this game and dominate, saying, yeah, you won a game, but we're obviously the better team. We obviously want it more. When down the line, no, they're not. Once again, they just want it more. We saw it in the Bucks series, even when Giannis was out. By the way, they lost. The Heat lost the game with Giannis out. But against the Knicks, I saw it up close and personal once. I went to 2 games. I went to Game 5. They won that game, but it actually was closer than people think. And then in Game 1, the Knicks just played stupid ball and the Heat wanted more. In the Knicks series, you could just tell the Knicks were not ready to play. They did not have the intention to win the series. They wanted to, but they didn't really want to show it with a lot of pride, with a lot of courage. And the Heat, sort of stomped all over them. And in this series, the Celtics think they can go in and say, oh, this is the 27th best three-point shooting team. They're hurt. The 20-point score off the bench in Tyler Hero's out. Victor Oladipo, who gives you solid minutes, he's also out. We can just walk all of this. It's going to be an easy finals run. And you go down 3-0. And your back's against the wall. And you're on the verge of getting swept. And you had to pull out a performance like this. Now, what are we going to expect from Jason Tatum? In elimination games, he's great. However, throughout these playoffs, it's been 20-plus point game, sub-20-point game. Then immediately after, plus 20-point game, sub-20-point game. This is what Jason Tatum has been throughout these playoffs. Now, he actually started... I got nervous early on because Jason Tatum started off, what was it, the first 5 minutes, he had 3 turnovers. I was like, oh, come on, what are you doing here? The Heat seemed like they wanted more. They were still playing great defense. And the Celtics finally caught fire. Jason Tatum made 2 really great threes in the third quarter. It was a Caleb Martin. He had a horrible third quarter. He went 0 for 3 in the third quarter. They just could not, get it going in the third quarter. And that's when the Celtics took over and finished out the game. So I fully expect, even though I picked the Celtics to win the series in 6, which can't happen anymore, and I don't expect them to win at all anymore, I fully expect the Celtics to get gentlemen swept. And that's what will happen. The Celtics will get gentlemen swept tomorrow. Or I guess if you're seeing this today. That will happen. I guarantee it. Mark it in the books. I don't trust the Celtics team. The Celtics team showed that they're not ready to play, and for sure, they are not NBA Finals worthy. Go up against the Nuggets, who Jokic is just on a tear, averaging a triple-double, and somehow beat the Nuggets. Hell, you have to win this series first. I don't even think you can win one more game. But, we will see. All right, let's get into our last topic, because this is an interesting one. So LeBron James, after getting swept by the Denver Nuggets, had some comments that people are not exactly happy about because it seems like we could be at the end of the Kings' run. I want to say this. Most great players do not get a Cinderella ending. They do not get that storybook ending where you win a championship and then can ride off into the sunset. It just doesn't happen. The players that come to mind that did that are NFL players, because I watch the NFL way more than I do the NBA, but Peyton Manning did that. Didn't have a great season, but he was able to win, and then he retired. John Elway also did that. But sometimes, even for the greatest players of all time, it actually may end pretty ugly. We saw Tom Brady in his last year. He looked terrible. Hell, he was even scared on the field. LeBron James now thinking about retirement? I don't think it'll happen. But this may be the best time for LeBron to retire. Because think about it. He just came off of a personal record performance. He had the most points in a singular quarter. I believe he had 21 in the first quarter of Game 4, which led to the most points he's ever scored in a half in the playoffs, with 31. In this game, in the final game, he played 48 minutes and scored 40 points. He averaged damn near a triple-double. And in the regular season, before he got hurt, he was like top in scoring, or near the top in scoring. So LeBron obviously can still play, but it's whether or not it's the mentality of it. Tom Brady could still throw a football 50, 60, maybe even 70 yards if he gets enough into it. LeBron could still drive if he really wants to. Now, his three-point shooting is always terrible, and his free throw percentage may be even worse. But LeBron doesn't want to put up with lackluster performances from his supporting cast. Anthony Davis, actually, surprisingly, his highs sort of made his lows not look that bad. LeBron already knows he cannot win he can't win an NBA Finals with the team that he has right now. And so while I think it's more so the way they lost is very demoralizing, I don't think LeBron is necessarily done. But if he does retire, I wouldn't be that surprised. Because he's the highest scorer. He has a bunch of records. He's won, 4 NBA Finals and nearly had a 5th. Like, this season was a big success. Because you go into the season starting off 2-10, and you got to claw your way and go all the way up into the Western Conference Finals with a team that no one really thought, mainly because they just had LeBron, but no one actually thought this team could win an NBA Finals. And somehow, they almost did. Now, they got swept, but if you take a look at the game, you say, which was the harder series? Which series could have actually ended up, sort of being an upset? The Lakers series or the series that hasn't ended yet, but could very well tomorrow, in the Celtics Heat series? The Lakers had opportunities to win every single game. And Game 4 came down to LeBron, I'm going to say, because it's obvious, getting fouled on the last shot, but it wasn't called. The Lakers had opportunities to win in every single one of these games. The Nuggets were just the better team. But that doesn't mean the Lakers couldn't have beaten them in any game. Hell, if you just capitalized, if your role players actually showed up, or at least, had some impact that wasn't negative, you very well could have won 4 games in a row. Just take a look at it. Even in Jamal Murray's 37-point game, you had an opportunity to still win that game. I believe you only lost by 8. And that's because D'Angelo Russell had a terrible series. You had opportunities to win each of these games. And you couldn't do it because LeBron and Anthony Davis do not have a supporting cast that is an NBA Finals worthy team. Now I'm going to talk about a little rumor on Friday. I'm going to hint to it. LeBron, there's a destination out there that I find pretty intriguing, and honestly, we shouldn't be surprised. But I will talk about that on Friday. I think it's quite interesting, and at first you might be like, "No, really?" But think about it; it'll make a little bit more sense. But LeBron still has passion. He still has the fire. And honestly, if it wasn't for an ankle injury, I don't think this would even be a question. But the fact that he's playing hurt and he's putting his heart, blood, sweat, tears, and soul into this game, and the result is you get swept in the Western Conference Finals and you put up 40 points at 38 years old and you're 20, you're gonna feel pretty bad. And that's another thing. The pressure that LeBron James has is very rare. Because instead of comparing him to what has he done lately or his previous year, we compare LeBron James to the peak of LeBron James, what he once was. And that's unfair. Because what LeBron James once was take a look at the 17-18 finals. Now he got swept, but he actually carried his team, carried some bums to the NBA Finals. LeBron can't do that anymore. Take a look at the numbers. He's a better Jaylen Brown. So he's a really, really good number 2. And that's perfectly fine to say. Some of the all-time greats could barely average 15 points a game. LeBron is dropping damn near 30. In the playoffs, he had a double-double. Damn near a triple-double. Actually, he might have had a triple-double. I don't have the number in front of me. So we have to realize that in year 20, at age 38, LeBron is putting up numbers that haven't been done by anyone his age in the entirety of NBA history. And we still compare him to his peak. It was unfair to do it with LeBron. It's unfair to do it to Tom Brady. 2 of the greatest sports players in their respective sports. Brady, unquestionably the greatest quarterback of all time. LeBron, arguably the greatest player of all time. I think he is, personally. Tom Brady could also argue he's the greatest player of all time. It was unfair to compare the 2 greats at their very peak. Because guess what? Their peaks may be 10, 12, 13 years ago. Compare them to what they were recently. LeBron recently has been averaging about 30 a game. And we have to take this into account as well. He's getting hurt a lot more. So LeBron has to play a little bit more cautiously. He has to play with a little bit more, safe. And LeBron's game is not about playing it safe. LeBron's not a guy that could be a spot-up shooter. He's not a guy that has an incredible mid-range shot. LeBron James' success came from driving the basketball. And at 38 years old, you can only do that so much without getting gassed. And we saw a number of times throughout this playoffs, LeBron was just flat out gassed. So what are we going to see now? I expect LeBron James to come back next year. Now, if it's on the Lakers, who knows? But I do know one thing. LeBron James is the greatest player of all time. He should be satisfied with this playoff run. And I think he'll come back next year healthy. If he needs surgery, you may want to take a break or 2. You may take like a month off just to be safe. But I think he'll come back at some time next year. And go back to that, 25, 26 points a game, probably close to 10 rebounds a game. I'm sure he'll have 7, 8 assists per game and go back to being the greatest player of all time. That's if he wants to. And I think, honestly, as the king, he'll want that crown back. And I think he's definitely going to regain his throne. That's it for this episode of the Harvey Hour Fired Up. Once again, I apologize for the internet delay. I just thought I might as well get this up here. We'll see how it turns out. Clips will be uploaded tomorrow and throughout the week, of course. Celtics tomorrow, that should be a hell of a game. Once again, I picked the Heat to win and end the series, but we will see. NBA Finals start of June 1st. Sports are exciting. Hopefully, there's more NFL news. Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, I'm back with my dad for another episode of the Harvey Hour, but thank you all for joining. My name is Nathan Harvey, a.k.a. your host of the Harvey Hour and the Harvey Hour Fired Up. I will see you once again Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.